Welcome to r/Nuclearrevenge, where we have an actual murder on our hands. Our next Reddit post is from Wolfie is Back in Black. I lost my dad 20 days ago. The hurt is fresh. I'm not sure of the legality, but since my dad is gone, I guess this story can't harm anyone anymore. My dad was my hero in more than one way. He was a wonderful storyteller, and there are so many stories about him. Here's one that's my personal favorite. My dad is the youngest of 9 siblings. He had 6 brothers and 2 sisters. He loved his siblings, and as the youngest sibling, he was loved and pampered. One thing that me and him share is our short temper. As a young man, my dad was known to be volatile. When he was 19, his older sister, Carly, was married to a military man. He was mostly posted on the border. We're Indians. This meant that Auntie Carly was living with her in-laws like many women in India still do. The problem was her older brother-in-law. Let's call him Adam for a-hole. Adam was a goon, an extortionist, an abuser, and yes, an R-wordist. He was scary. He was known for being physically imposing at 6'8". He was well-built and unbeatable in fights. No woman was safe when he was around. After my Auntie Carly got married to her husband, the nasty brother-in-law Adam set his sights on her. He began harassing her, forcing her to sleep with him. The family did nothing to protect her. This went on for weeks. She was tired of fighting and was totally shattered emotionally. One day, she found the courage to talk about it to one of her older nephews, who was 18 at the time. Her nephew went home to my dad and broke down about how Carly was suffering and how her honor and life were at risk. This enraged my dad, but he realized that he wouldn't be able to take down the monster of Adam all by himself. So he gathered his friends, his older nephews, and together they hatched a plan. Actually, they had no plan. The plan was to beat the stuffing out of Adam to send him a message. But they wouldn't be able to do this when he was sober, so they waited for the evening when he was usually drunk. My dad and his friends drank as well, for liquid courage. Then they waited for him in the dark roads of their village, which still had sketchy electricity. Then they pounced on him as soon as they had a chance. It was 6 young, drunk fools against this one mountain of a guy. While drunk, he was still able to fight well. Adam also had a bunch of minions who, unknown to my dad, were right behind him. It became a free-for-all fight. My dad, drunk and in the frenzy of the fight, grabbed a piece of wood he found on the road and hit Adam with it with all of his might, straight on the head. Then my dad and his friends ran off because someone had called for backup and these young lads weren't sober enough to come up with a plan or a sane idea. Dad somehow made it home, showered, and slept. Next day, he told his mom they got into a fight and that stuff went down. As he was telling his mom what happened, my dad was informed by his brother that cops were looking for him. My grandma told Dad to lay low for a bit. Unfortunately, Adam made it to the hospital and was able to give a statement. Dad was on the run for a bit, but later surrendered because, according to him, I was tired of eating terrible food. They honest to God surrendered to the cops and demanded a good meal. The case was dismissed and Adam did manage to live, but didn't survive long. The injury my dad gave him chased him to his grave in a few months. This story is something Dad always liked to tell. He has zero remorse for what happened to Adam because, in his words, not a single woman was harmed or abused in their village after this incident. I miss my dad. I'm sure he had much more stories, but I'll never know them. Personally, this is how I think people used to deal with problems back in caveman era. If you had caveman Ugg beating up his wife, then the other cavemen in his tribe would just beat the shit out of him one day and probably kill him. Our next Reddit post is from Further Dimensions. My very good friend made some slightly dumb mistakes and sent some pictures to someone that she reasonably thought that she could trust. But not knowing much more than his first name, his screen name, and roughly where he lived and the type of work he did. He isn't in our country, but he had indicated that he'd been traveling for work to move close to us shortly, and they had made some plans to meet. And when she got some red flags and backed out, the dude threatened to publish these pictures online. I am, incidentally, an attorney. So some searching later and gathering up any pictures he sent her of him that could possibly identify him, his online handle led me to his TikTok page, which led me to an Instagram page with his name on it. That led me to a LinkedIn page with his place of work that matched a picture that he sent with a branded polo that he was wearing. Some more searches got me the email of his CEO, VP of HR, Operations Manager, and Public Relations Manager. I just fired off an email on behalf of my client of the screenshots of him threatening revenge adult content. Snippets of the conversation showing that username while he sent that exact picture of him wearing his company's branded apparel. Links to how I know it's him, along with pictures that he sent her of his motorcycle with his license plate showing, as further proof that it's him. I also included screenshots of him discussing a workplace incident that were timestamped, along with pieces of dialogue discussing how he had intercourse with an ex at his place of work, and discussing plans to have intercourse with my friend in his office as well. I also included a picture that he sent her showing his work laptop with his entire Outlook calendar, along with proprietary information, which he sent to prove that he was busy, along with other pictures that he took of his workplace with non-consenting employees. I further informed his employer that I'd be forwarding all this information to their local law enforcement. And since he had indicated that he'd be traveling to the United States soon, we would also forward this to the local office of the FBI. Since my client is a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil, and these threats constituted a federal crime. So, should they continue with his employment and continue with their plans to send him to the United States for work, I will ensure, on behalf of my client, that federal law enforcement is waiting for him on arrival. Which I will do, as one of the assistant U.S. attorneys for this region is a law school buddy of mine. Since I have his license plate number, I know where he lives, and I will be contacting his local authorities tomorrow. You dumb idiot thinking you were hiding around anonymity, thinking you could threaten my friend. It took me 45 minutes to destroy your life. I once heard the phrase that the key to being a successful businessman is to get a good accountant and an even better lawyer. OP is one of these better lawyers that phrase is talking about. And lawyers charge by the hour, so since this took 45 minutes, they've still got 15 minutes left over to do whatever you want. Man, what a bargain OP is. Talk about being good at your job. Also, OP posted an update just to say, yep, he's been fired. Our next Reddit post is from Kraken Fledgling. This story involves Abe, a young, talented veterinarian, and Sophia, his now ex-wife, who's from a very rich family. Abe and Sophia both worked with my parents, who own a vet clinic. Abe worked as a vet, and Sophia worked as an assistant. Abe was a bit of a pushover, but a nice guy. Sophia was very manipulative and borderline just evil. Around 4 years ago, Sophia was caught stealing from the cash register and fired. She then pushed Abe until he also quit around half a year later. They founded their own vet clinic 2 towns over, though much smaller, with Abe being the only doctor. While we all really hated Sophia, and my parents were really mad at Abe for defending her, I still liked Abe, and I wished him the best. I helped him set up his own website and some other IT stuff that would come into play later. So 2 years after Sophia and Abe started up their own vet clinic, it was going well. Legally, Sophia and her family owned 49% of the company, Abe owned 46%, and another investor owned 5%. This other investor was supposedly neutral, but turned out to be friends with Sophia's family. Sophia and the investor decided to basically screw Abe out of the business. I don't exactly know why, but having known Sophia for years, I'm assuming Beelzebub warned her that she was running low on her quota of ruining lives. Basically, they founded a new vet company and started selling the assets of the old company to the new one for basically no money. Since Sophia and the other investor owned over 50% of the investment, they could do this. In my country, 51% control means that you have the final say. They couldn't technically just fire Abe, but since they ran the original company into the ground, he was still out. He was the only doctor and did most of the work, and it turned out they had a non-compete clause that meant that he couldn't start up a new business. And while he wasn't on the worst possible terms with my parents, it was enough of a bridge burn that he basically had no choice of working as a vet in this whole region. So Abe was left with no job, and all the money he invested into his company was effectively stolen. Oh, and Sophia and the other investor also tried to screw me out of payment for making some functionality for their new clinic's website. So Abe was out of luck, and I was having a drink with him to cheer him up when the topic turned to who the new vet would be to do the actual work. We had no clue, but I was a tad pissed, so I decided to check if they removed my access to all the IT stuff when we yelled at each other over payment. They didn't. And they didn't change the company's email address password either. We decided to snoop, which was technically barely not illegal, since Abe was part of the company for like 2 more weeks at that time. We found 3 applicants, all of whom we immediately and very, very rudely rejected. Vet medicine is a small world in this country, so good luck finding another doctor. The actual nuclear part of this revenge, however, came 2 years later, when Abe was already in the middle of a very long court battle. Since, as you can imagine, what Sophia and the investor did was not exactly 100% legal. I was cleaning up some stuff on my work laptop when I noticed they still didn't remove my access to their system years later. See, we knew that their new vet company was still going on, but they had a hard time finding vets. Can't imagine why. And the ones they could get left quickly. As I poked around in their system, I saw that the vet on different case logs for weeks at a time was Sophia. See, as it later came out, Sophia was pretending that she was an actual vet when they really didn't have one and even forged prescriptions. Now, the thing is, me accessing this info is legally dubious at best, and sharing it with Abe would be even worse. In the last couple of years, however, I was studying cybersecurity to become an ethical hacker. And wouldn't you know it, the stupid me from 2 years ago accidentally left a vulnerability that a smart hacker could use to read data from the internal database. Just a couple of days later, the leaked database showing Sophie's fraud ended up posted anonymously to a forum that I happened to read. For legal reasons, it definitely wasn't me who posted it. I just happened to find it right after it was posted from a fresh account. And I archived it in the 15-minute window before the mods deleted it. I did send an email to Sophia when I first saw the issue with the code, saying that I found a security flaw while going through my old code and to contact me about fixing it. I must have forgot that she mainly uses the clinic's address instead of the old one that she used to use, which she checks like once a month at best. How forgetful of me. When Abe's lawyer got the judge to order a full audit of these logs and the prescriptions, Sophie tried to delete the full database, failing to remember the backup that it makes every week. I'm not a lawyer, but I feel confident giving the advice that trying to delete evidence a judge ordered you to provide does not play well with the courts. It strongly looks like she'll end up serving time. As a cherry on top, I helped Abe patch things up with my parents, and he got his old job back. He's been back for a year and just got a promotion and a raise. I'm currently sipping on some rum as I'm typing this that he bought me as a thanks for his first bigger salary. That was r/Nuclearrevenge, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.